And this thing is apologies, and we have apologies from Martin. And that's all. There's nobody, as far as I know, arriving from the public forum. Is there anything, items not on the agenda that can't be discussed by your report, Kerry? Anyone got any? Yes, I'd just like to move the apology from Martin. Oh, yeah, right, good idea. Would you like to second it? Yeah, I'll second it. And now we're on to conflicts of interest and then we're on to minutes for confirmation. So first of all, is there any corrections or about accuracy? No, anything that's on those minutes that anyone wants to discuss that isn't on the agenda? So I'll move they're a true and correct record.
I'll second that.
Hearing. Everyone happy with that? Oh, so then we move on to the next item, which is your report, Gary. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is the district manager's report. It's probably form the main place doing, and on the end of it, I will give you an update on the last week's activities with the storm and everything else.
Wow.
So just recapping on the disconnection of the tsunami siren paging system. We've completed our public forums and a lot of interest, of course, on the eastern seaboard and absolutely no interest on the Thames-Coromandel side, none whatsoever. We had one lady in the 10th and politicians, and then Coromandel we had one lady, one ex-councillor and politicians. So the focus is totally, and it's where we will put our energies going forward is on the eastern seaboard.
Absolutely.
And mainly, once again, it's going from Whitianga, Pāwhare and Taua. Whangatā, really, there was a good forum there. They asked a lot of questions, but they were quite accepting in terms of they understood what was going on. So maybe, going forward, the three communities will be those.
So the final decision will be made in the deliberation without predetermining that. If we move forward on the, on our planned cycle, what do you think needs to happen in Whitianga and Taua?
So if we make the assumption that I presented my analysis and recommendations, so based on the fact that the elected members consider that as the way forward, the next conversation is just to re-engage with those communities and just to start talking to them about where do they want to go with it, because there are a lot of options. One is they can decide to go on their own, self-fund and put their own issues in. There's they put up budgets, they put up costings for us to get involved. So we need to get their information locked in and bring it back to the elected members to consider. By and large, for me, the message I'm getting is that this is a district-wide decision.
Yes.
And if Whitianga or Taua or Whangatā want to do something, it has to hit the whole district. Tupuru and Tararua, and they've got to be included as well. So, it's just continue the conversation.
So communication is going to be key.
That's it.
Yeah.
And happy to do that right up and through. And we'll just see where it goes. I understand they've been to the deputation went to the community board in Whitianga last week. President Cobb, I haven't seen that. But no doubt
and it links in with your community response plans very much, doesn't it, Pam? So how do we start to?
Yes, we're ramping up the education and awareness at the same time as we are making the other changes as well. I'm not saying yeah, it's all going hand in hand.
Yep, cool.
so that's where we're at. So we'll wait till next week's deliberations. And well, it's not till June the 30th signed off.
Yes.
So, but we'll get a steer from elected members next week.
And we've already, yes, yeah, cool.
So working with Thames was really good. They came on board and they were very, very supportive. And it was exactly what we had asked them to do, was to share the workload, and they did, which was good. So working on to the evacuation project, panelists can do an update for us shortly. And so that's, we've got a budget still intact, 222,000 for next year. The issue that we've had with it is we start at the beach fronts and then we move back into communities and then move up the hills with signage and everything else. Once we leave the beach, we're into traffic management costs, we're into, like, FEMA can reduce a sign for 30 bucks, it costs 150 to put it up. So while we grapple with that and while we work out a way to fix it, we are going to do the eastern seaboard beach fronts only this summer, as far up as we can possibly go. So we've done a lot of work in panel and loop to that. So just let you know, it's going to be in stages.
Yes.
But we have some coming in. If we do that and we go along with the costs that have been given to us, we're going to blow that project within 6 months. And it'll all be on administration and bureaucracy and stuff. So.
Okay, so we'll hear more about that later.
Can I just ask a couple of questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
So Gary, I just need to clarify in my head, when the government has said that we're going to, if you're not compliant, to remove your sirens, or you can upgrade them, was that just a by district decision, or how was that laid out to the or to your, say, emergency groups?
So in 2014, Terry, the government put out new directives guidelines for New Zealand. Every district council in New Zealand that had sirens had to comply with the new standards for disconnect. They've all disconnected except for Auckland and Northland. And Tauranga are trying to do it, but they're grappling with it.
So if a community like Paranui's talking about, which is a bit of a pain in the butt, goes out and upgrades its sirens, how does it affect what we're trying to achieve here?
It'll probably affect us badly, but that's what we need to do is go and I think delve into that conversation with them. If there's an expectation that I will still hold the key to set the alarms off, I don't think council has an appetite for that. But those are the details we have to flesh out. But it's a national directive, Terry, and we're complying with the decision that was made regarding disconnect. Okay, so I just want to get in my head. So if the government said either upgrade them or pull them out, and we decided to pull them out, have they got a case to say upgrading was an option and we're going to take it? That's what I need to get my head around. So upgrading was always an option, but we costed an upgrade out many years ago, I think about 2016 at 5 million. And if we do upgrade and we go to the new standards now with the all hazards alerting, that's voice over and everything else that we're talking about, district wide, that's going to cost them in the vicinity of 9 million. No, they don't want to, they just want to pay for it themselves to do it themselves. Yeah.
The trouble is, Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, we can't connect to the fence, so we need a whole new system. They can't just upgrade what we've had before because fence is going to turn that off.
Yeah,
so no, but they could upgrade and have somebody over there turn them off and on when they're required. So if they choose to do that, yeah, that's a conversation they have to have. Because it has to turn from an ideology into reality, and the two are miles apart at the moment. Okay, so yeah, so have we got the right to say no? That's what I need to understand. Cool. At the moment, we've got the right to deliver what we've been directed to deliver by elected members, and that's disconnect them. Conversation going forward, we just have to have it with them and see where it goes. But If, for example, Whirianga wanted to install 3 sirens of their own that stand alone, it would possibly take them 2 years, maybe 3 years to get that done in terms of consenting, costing and everything else. So,
Can I help with something here,
Yeah.
Terry? The key is not whether a community has a siren, because sirens are just tools. What I understand about the issue with the East Coast is if the community wanted a siren in Pauanui and the community paid the $300,000 to install a siren in Pauanui, the question then comes, who flicks the switch? So the community in Pauanui would probably desire to be the people that flick the switch, because council will say we're not going to resource for flicking one switch in Pauanui when we've got a whole district to control and coordinate. So regardless of where that decision is made, whether it's council or community that are waiting to flick the switch, they have to wait for NEMA to give them the permission to flick the switch. And the whole point that NEMA is making is that the time it takes to do the research to find out if a tsunami is going to hit Pauanui, in 99% of cases, the tsunami would already have swept through Pauanui before NEMA had given permission to flick the switch. So if the siren is still standing after the earthquake, if we still have power and the siren is working after the earthquake, we will still potentially wait for an hour and 20 minutes for NEMA to tell someone to flick the switch. But everyone will be at the top of the hill or under the rubble in their houses. And that's the point that people in Pauanui need to understand. Does that provide clarity?
I don't think they've got that message yet.
No.
no, they don't.
But does that provide the clarity of communication that we need to keep providing?
Well, I understand it clearly, but if they said that they'll get the warning by phone and flick the switch, can they do that?
Yes, they will, but the problem is, and this is the message that they need to actually take on board, is that by the time they get that phone call, it will be too late.
So we've been telling them that until we're blue in the face, but it's not resonating because they don't want to hear it. That's why. So we've got a bit of work to do, but this is what the conversation's all about. Handy to sit there.
So I just, from where I sit, that's a really important conversation. But the other conversation, which is even more important for me, is if the decision is made as recommended next week, we will be moving towards the new system without sirens, and I don't want the comms and the work that we do to be, or that to be undermined by this other discussion. And I think that was the challenge over the last couple of months. Like, we made a decision, we were about to do the comms, and then the earth moved. And suddenly we're in a whole other conversation. So that, I'm just acknowledging your challenge to keep this work going as well as that over there. So
just to put it in perspective a little bit, last Thursday, so a week ago, I was one of 4 people that had a session with Jose Rivera, the tsunami scientist. And we spent probably an hour and a half with him. And his last conversation was that the Coromandel is going to experience a huge devastating tsunami. He said the chances of it happening are like this. It would have to be a particular fracture in a particular place on a Kumite trench at a particular time. And he said the chances of that happening are very, very, very high. So you could spend $9 million building infrastructure and never ever turn it on. So he put it like that. He said the chances will be, just because the Coromandel on its angle, he said it just probably will never ever happen.
Yep.
If it does, you will certainly know about it long before it does.
So I think that's the other bit of information, Terry. And at a Waikato regional level, it's very much our problem because most of them don't have one. And there was one other TLA that had one and they just turned it off and end of story. So it's very much our challenge.
Yeah, I agree totally with you. Yeah, I'm on board with the decision made by the committee, no trouble at all. It's just that it raised itself the day we had a committee meeting, the next meeting there was an alert, and then that raised issues through the long-term plan, so we went out to consultation. So
Yeah.
I was looking for the message from council that says, whoa, we've made our decision, this is the decision, but there still seems to be.
Yeah, and I think that will come with the decisions for the LTP, and then we'll have comms around that, and we'll all be on the same page, and on we go. Okay? Right, moving along.
Yeah, and then after spending some time with Jose last week, I am more convinced that the decision the committee made in council is the right one. There's no doubt about that. Okay, so just quickly moving on. COVID, this is all up in the air as it is with BHP. The rollout, it's delayed and everything else, but what they've decided is that coming into winter, if we're going to do a rollout, it will probably be in halls or hospitals or whatever. So we're just getting ready so that if we do require a hall, we have priority over bookings, and so the staff, the community facility staff are ready to do that and just assist where we can.
I was at a meeting standing in for the media rural health meeting, and they were talking about fitting in your Thames meeting the population for that. So yeah, and the DHB with its other struggles as well.
So we'll help where we can. E-engagement. So what
Can
we
I
are.
just go back to the vaccination? I just think that our risk of a community outbreak, I think, is increasing daily with our interchange with Australia, etc., etc. So I think anything that comes out of this organisation, if we can keep somehow reminding people to distance, stay home if they're sick. I know it's not our job as such, use the code. I for one got really lazy about stepping in, so that would be helpful as we're moving about.
I just to make comment on that, there's some information or communication came out yesterday about them using the local halls for set up for the COVID inoculation program.
Yeah.
And now Waikato's gone into a bit of a fit over what's going on over there. Has that been brought through the committee in any way about?
Yeah, Gary just said that before, Terry, that we're ready to roll when they need our halls, if they do. And what I'm hearing is that will happen, and we will work with them.
Right, because I heard that we had to go to the cities for a start. So now you think they might come to the halls?
The meeting I was at, they were planning Thames and Whitianga had the population base to warrant that.
Right.
A lot of the rollout they're doing in conjunction with Tcdc, while the computers are down up on the hill here, they're using Tcdc setup and all their laptops and things to keep going. And so, so there's quite a good partnership there. So they'll do their best. I think myself, without knowing anything, that the problem is a real shortage of the vaccine coming into the country, and they're trying to manage expectations via availability of supply.
Okay, yep.
Don't hold your breath.
I think everyone should hold their breath about getting a vaccine and just keep on with the public health measures, and everyone will be vaccinated in time.
Get a flu jab first.
Right.
Okay, e-engagement. What I'm going to do is hand over to Helen to just give us an update. She went down to Portland a month ago and experienced some wonderful training. We're looking at slow progress, as we can expect, but we are determined to get there because it's a very big push from NEMA. So what we have to just pass over to Helen to just explain what happened down there.
So Protocol have been working with Tū Whakatoa, and they've got the position where they've got one iwi with one council and one Philippines office. So they've been working with them for a year or two on the marae training day, and it's about emergency preparedness for that marae, and they partner up with beds, and they've got the local health equivalent to Paraguay in the civil defence. So I went down and had it done. It was really interesting, but I don't think it's transplantable as is because it's about relationships and people.
Yeah.
But what I have done is talked to Conaway here and Thames here, and they're really supportive to do a similar thing, that the three agencies go into a marae and help the marae with what it is that they want. So that's the next step, is rather than saying this is our training plan, we can come and deliver it, is the conversation, and Frank Thorne is on board with that, the conversation with marae about what sort of training they want. I'm really conscious the civil defence message down there was really about 3 days of food, and we've got food security issues. So I've talked to Ministry of Social Development, Shell's going to be clear here about the sort of messaging we might want to try and get across. So it's about getting a tailored package for our marae that the marae want. So the next step is talking to the marae, but we have got the other agencies on board, and the model of multi-agency going and delivering something in the marae is really good. So our focus would be Manaia, Kennedy Bay, Waikato and Thames, because those are the 4 main marae. The end point of it is building the relationship. So if we have an event, it's not the first time that we're on the phone saying, we've got 100 people there, how can we help you?
Yeah.
We need to have those conversations first. So in the background, that's what's going on. So there's not one size fits all.
Yeah, good.
So we're going up there on June 8th. We'll have a hooting at
Cool.
So Frank's helpful there. He's the conduit to make it all happen.
Right.
So we'll get there. Frank, by the way, the chair, he's representing us down at the National Emergency Management Conference in Wellington. He's there now. He started Tuesday, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday, Wednesday, last day today. So there was a very big evening protest there, so we thought it appropriate that he goes there and represents us.
Good.
There's a number of workshops that I'm sure he won't have to get us stay on. Let's see what happened there. Okay, moving along, the recovery manager, your meeting is Monday, and hopefully the recovery manager role will be confirmed. I'm already doing it and replaced by me, so we better get it across the line. So it's just a formality because the committee passed a resolution and we just sent it off to the joint committee. Business continuity plans. I think the importance of business continuity plans has really come home like since COVID, so over 12 months. So what we are doing now is we've learned some of them are pretty clunky. So what we are going to do over the winter, we're going to review each plan and update them, update the pandemic plan with it, and really just sharpen those plans up and reintroduce them to departments. So they work very, very well. Some don't take a lot of regard for them, but they still get through. And I give an example of IT. So within a couple of hours of making the decision last year that we were closing their going to level 4, IT kicked in and they did an amazing job.
Yeah.
Just relocating everybody, and they had a plan and they knew what the plan was, but it wasn't a business continuity plan as we know it. So we've got to work with each department to tailor it to suit. But it's a very, very important tool that we need. This committee needs to really ensure that they're pushed through. Training. I'm going to pass back to the ladies again regarding training. I've got to say that it's been an issue of mine that we have not been successful in training, but all of a sudden we're getting traction and having Richard on board. It's really going well. So you see some really good figures here. So Helen and Ben, just want to talk about where we're at.
I think about 5 minutes down slide.
Okay. Well, Helen,
Right, so hold fire and we'll keep it there, that's good.
So that's good. But yeah, training's going well, and we've got some really good serious ownership from some senior staff, which is really good. So that we set up the EOC, I'm confident we can run for a couple of tests, which is great. Water tanks, just a quick one on that. We had one filled at Manaia, required a number of inquiries, naturally for 3 bills, which we declined. So that program's done and dusted, but they'll carry the money over to next summer.
Right.
So it's always a which is good. Sandbags.
So the sandbag has been a mystery for us a while, but we've made good progress. There's about 100 pallets fans sitting there.
Just under.
Yeah, about 100 pallets sitting there, have been repacked, re-wrapped, and in the next few weeks will be distributed around the Coromandel to various stations, fire stations, and so forth. I'm working with the boating club at Tcdc over the next day or so to see whether we can store quite a few pallets up there. So we're now getting them out to communities that may or may not be over the years. They'll last another couple of years, and if they store properly, they'll last for longer. So it's been a big project, but Higgins have come on board. They help us sponsor it all, and the rugby club at Whangatā are in, and Bunnings. I mean, it's real community effort, which is good.
Can I just talk about the sandbags?
Yes.
So you're going to distribute them around the Coromandel. Is that the discussion?
Yeah.
So at Whangatā, there was one of the waves hit the house along the southern beach by where the Hutakara tree is. You'll know where access, I think it's access 14 or something like that, where they've just upgraded. Tanya's done a lot of work along there. Could they put some sandbags along there?
Yeah, if people want sandbags, they can just sing out and either the fire brigade, or they can come and get them.
Okay, I'll talk to Bert, because that's the only house that got hit by a wave over the weekend, and I'm thinking it would do some resilience around their place for sure. So okay, so we just talked to whom?
Pam.
Okay, Pam.
What's he planning to do? Store them for when the next storm comes, or start to redesign the beach?
It's eroded out the roots around the Hutakara tree in front of the house. So they just reinstate the sand around there with the bags. It would give us some resilience. It's not washed out.
You know, that's fine, because normally we've just been doing push-ups there anyway. So I'm surprised that Hutakara was still there.
So is he.
Yeah. No, no, sure. So this is a property at the southern end of Whangatā. It's right on the water and totally exposed. It's from me to you, wobbling away from the water. And the waves come up, that's got just any time. We normally do the push-ups and really gets out there and ties up. So sandbags around the car, which is probably good.
Okay.
And it's up in the area.
It also took out quite a large lump of what Tanya's done on her walkway, but I think they'll reinstate those bollards. So have you had a look at it, Pam?
No, I haven't yet. I'll do a drive-by this afternoon.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, click over to page 12 now, and I just want to recap on quite a substantial outage that happened on the 30th of April. But just to reiterate that if we do have a major power outage anywhere on the Coromandel, we are completely linked up with radio, so we can communicate with each of the area offices. We can communicate with emergency services, we can communicate with Hamilton. It's not a problem for us to function as a council. Emergency services, they've got their own issues, because if the one system is down, they've got to deal with it. So just to clarify that.
Because there was a sense that we were somehow responsible for more than, you were using the we, I think, for the mayor, that meant the whole, not just our business. Yeah.
So just that was the reason for it, so that when things like that happen, we are okay, we can just flip the switch. We also have redundancy, so if one of them goes down, there's an automatic switch that flicks from Vodafone to Spark and Spark to Vodafone. So the officers can still function when one of the telcos is out of action.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't meaning to interrupt. I was just wondering on that particular issue and issues that are similar, where community loses lifeline utility services, which aren't our responsibility, but they are an issue in that community. Do we build that response into the community plans? So if that sort of situation were to eventuate, our community plan, our community response plan, automatically tells that community, oh, this is the mode we're now in. Because where council has the resource to cover comms and that sort of thing, at least the local office can become the point of coordination or communication in that type of scenario. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
worth considering as a learning
Communication
opportunity.
is in every plan.
Yeah.
And yeah, down to this person is about in a marine radio.
Yeah, nice.
Right.
Cool.
Okay.
So it was always something you just needed to bring it up, yeah,
That's right.
explain it.
And that leads me on to one other thing, which I think it might be worth the committee thinking about. And I don't want to step on the toes of our audit and risk committee because they deal with our key risk issues. But in terms of talking about the business continuity plans, it may well be worthwhile, and again, it's only a suggestion, asking the senior managers of each of our activity groups where we do have BCPs in place to perhaps give a presentation on a one BCP per meeting type of scenario where we can bring the committee up to speed with the level of planning that we have in terms of how we keep business continuity in place. And it may well be that the IT area would be the first focus area. And I know that we've recommended to the Audit and Risk Committee that that's an area to look at as well from a purely risk perspective. But from an emergency management perspective, if we were to lose comms, or if we were to lose fibre, or if we were to have a cyber attack, it does become an emergency management issue, and therefore it might be worth the committee being brought up to speed on those types of issues and how senior management are dealing with it. I'm not saying to delve too deeply, but at least have the confidence from the senior management in the organisation that they do have plans in place. I think it might be worthwhile as an educational exercise over the next couple of years to bring the committee up to speed.
That's good because we are going to put a lot of focus on, so it's probably not a good idea that we do that as an example, because we're pointing to an audit and risks that something that was on there anyway.
Yeah.
Good one.
I mean, if it's a heavy agenda, it could be bumped, but you know, I'll let
They're often not heavy
and Gary think
at the
about it.
time. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Rob.
So just to finish off my piece while I still got the microphone, can we flick over into that little PowerPoint I sent through? So we've been watching this cyclone for 10 days up until last week. We've known it's the largest tropical cyclone to come into the South Pacific since 2004. So it's absolutely, and it's bigger than all the other cyclone pan and everything else. The fact that it just stayed out to sea. But when you have a look at it on like Windy or Mid Service, it takes up the entire South Pacific. It's huge. So last Saturday, we started getting pretty keen on what was going on. Sunday, it turned upside down. So we got very big swells, and below the King Tides hadn't arrived. And it affected every single exposed beach on the eastern seaboard. So I started it. I went for a look a few days ago. I started at Furtile, the first light, and I went up and had a look at every exposed beach. They all had damage in terms of massive loss of sand, a lot of erosion that we'll have a look at, and just a lot of debris around. But because brightness and Buffalo were just perfectly aligned, the angle, the wind, the tide was all just symmetrically aligned, and they cocked it right off. And Brightness was the biggest one. So that's just an example of, so that's Brightness Beach, and that's Whakakahu down below with the trees. There's never a wave like that at either of those beaches. Now, the North Point Buoy, which is, so we've got a wave buoy just out of Whangarei, out of North Auckland, and we've got another one just out of Whamington, Waihi Beach. This is the North Buoy one, and there was just a screenshot there that Jamie took, and there was a wave with there at 9.4 metres. He saw one a little while later at 14 metres. So massive waves to see. So just to give an example of the power, and the interesting thing was if waves are breaking quickly between each other, there's no real power. But if they're getting up around 10 or 12 seconds between waves, the energy is just multiplied.
So that's giving you examples. So we've got, that's Brophy's and Taurua. So what we've got there is that's where the tides wanted to go, with the red line, that's where they actually went. So you'll just see they're getting up to really a long way, and then the storm surge. So that's all that happened, but you'll just see the inundation. And this morning, Brophy's was closed again for a period of time because we were right in the final of the King Tide phases. But that's the cleanup that we've got coming. Those sandbags, I understand, weigh over 700 kgs. And look at them just tossed around there, so quite a lot of force. So there's just examples of, so that the top left is Brophy's, so looking down towards the boating club. That's what it was, and then next one down below it is what it is at the moment. Well, it's actually worse than that. It's dropped another 2 or 3 metres. All that sand you've got there in the middle left-hand shot is all gone. There's nothing there at all. The Pahuta cars are still standing, which is really surprising. Over to the right, top right, that's Taurua. So that's heading into the reserve there. And further down, of course, that's Pauanavi, just dead on the road. So just a mess. But that's just an example. You can see out to the, on the left-hand shot, the size of this thing. It was very, very large. And then it runs through now until Sunday. So we may well have road closures tonight and tomorrow morning up at Brophy's.
Last night was quite bad as well. There's lots of damage in front of the town around the wall. It was insane high. The water was literally going into the shed.
Yeah. So the wall was topped up. Playground was underwater, I understand.
And the sand is literally into the car park at the Ocean Sports Club. Right, Ocean Land.
So significant, there's no doubt about that.
And there was no weather with that.
It was interesting, Gary, that I don't know with the rest of the Coromandel, but we never got a drop of rain through the whole event.
And we were very grateful because I think if we had a significant rain event coming down the catchments, it would have been pretty. So anyway, we got through it. So what happened yesterday is I met with the community facilities team. So they had a team meeting yesterday, and I presented them a recovery plan for them to look at and explain the process of what we do in recovery, and they're going to consider that next Monday once the tides are finished. And it's their choice whether they pick it up. I'm not going to drive it with them, but I'll certainly help them if they want. But I think they need to look at it. A lot of players involved and the regional council will be involved. So yeah, so that was.
So just help me, because there'll be people that just want to put different things with bulldozers and things. So in terms of recovery plan, how does that get feedback to us in terms of costing and emergency funds and all of that?
So the risk we face when we go into recovery is that you have, like in this particular instance, we've identified 7 players that have got an interest in this. And that includes political figures and staff, infrastructure, coastal science, parks reporters,
Regional council.
regional council. So what we have to do is someone has to take charge of that and say, right, don't do anything until you talk to us. Because if the infrastructure guys go off and repair the damaged stormwater and just get on with it, they're going to dig up sandbags, they're going to dig up the reserve, and if the reserve sides have gone through and leveled it and planted grass or whatever, just an example. So everyone has to coordinate, and the risk we face in recovery, everyone running off doing their own thing, it ends up costing council twice as much, and they don't complete the job.
So who's the recovery manager who coordinates all of that? Does that become you or Bruce?
So I'm the recovery manager. What I've done is I've gone to community facilities to say, you need to own this. And so I've said to Derek, somebody like Jamie, for example, who's our coastal scientist, he would be a perfect manager. So he would coordinate it. And the infrastructure guys, so there's like Andrew Scobie up there is helping with the redesign of the stormwater. So he would come on board and they'd work together.
Oh, okay.
So that's the basis of recovery, and if it's not done, it is quite can be catastrophic. So we'll just see where this one goes. I'm not going to force it on them because it's not the right time, but I'm certainly keen to see them have a go at it. It's very easy. It just takes a little bit of time, but what it does, it prevents a politician from saying, get a bulldozer. I'm using politicians, Terry, in a nice way, saying we just need a bulldozer and that'll solve the problem. It won't. It'll solve their problem, but it won't solve the one.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll have a break and we'll come back to my work program later. I'll hand over to Helen and Pam to have a chat about the little slices of the.
Thank you.
Yeah, Pam, do you want this? This is a program for July 1.
Okay. Gary has told you a little bit about the Tsunami Evacuation Project. We are starting with snow information boards. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about our webpage update and public education and other initiatives that we're thinking of doing. This all again follows on the whole sirens that are being disconnected. Yes. So this is reassurance, education and awareness. So we're going to do the tsunami information boards. They are boards that are the size of real estate signs, 900 by 600. We're going to start in July with Whakata Onimana Poetry Tairua Kāpanui. The template, I've given you guys the latest version. That's pretty much what they're going to look like. There's a couple of spelling mistakes, so the designer is going to fix that. And the little man running up the hill, there's a few images we need to use for that. It's a family running up the hill. Just you'll be aware that there's a little open space at the bottom right of the map, and we're leaving that open because we're looking at new technology that is pretty much going to allow people to stand in front of the map, download a QR code that takes them to an app that gives them a virtual reality tour of where they are and how do they get to these sites.
Right.
That's in process and the company's in talks with NEMA at the minute. So next we will be working on Hot Water Beach, High Cooks, Flaxmore Bay, Perry Landing and Whiringa. That will be September to November. And February to April, I'm planning on installing the boards at Kuitunu, Otahuara, and Tapamarangi from Whiringa Bay. And the Thames-Coromandel will be done in the next financial year. So these boards will go into the main entrances to beaches, both ramps, estuaries, harbour entrances, and I'll also have this exact board in the town centre as well, so close to the information centre, or if they have a big notice board, we'll put them in there. Helen and I are going to be working with comms on upgrading our webpage on the Tcdc website, and the reason for that is we are anticipating a lot of more foot traffic going to our site. Currently, it is very windy and very boring and not easy to navigate. So we have just giving you an idea of what the page is going to look like. It's going to be icons. You click on it and it will take you to more information, more concise, updated information, and links to lots of very informative websites. For instance, the Hazards Portal, the Mariah, we found amazing information online that we can link to. Also, my plan is to set up the web page so that I have to update it. I'm doing training to learn how to do this properly with the help of comms. I'm going to have seasonal updates. So every season we have a new flavour, we have new hazards generally in seasons. And I'm going to use that update to also send out to my hospitals, rest homes, schools, and they can link straight to our webpage to get the new information. And we're hoping to have this project completed by the 1st of August. The Long, Strong, Get Gone campaign is going to start in August to October, and we're going to do a comms plan with our communications team, and it's pretty much going to be paper, radio, and social media, and that's why we really need to have our web page really smart, and informative and educational and easy to navigate. We are looking at other companies. For instance, we're currently speaking to a company called Fuel about optimizing our traffic. People that are looking at coming to the Coromandel, searching for accommodation options or where to book a batch, they get targeted with being directed to our Facebook page or our website. That's a big reason why we have to spruce up our page. And we are also looking, Gary's looking at putting up state road signs coming onto the Coromandel, which would, the idea is we would start with the long, strong Egon,
Yeah.
Coromandel flavour, I think, and these will, you should be able to rewrap them, so if we have a new message, we can just go and change them and they'll be permanently located on all entrances. So download the read what there's there, whatever we need to say.
It feels really important to me, you know, like, it's Rob was saying, it's too late, you know, long, strong, get on. Go and you go check your neighbours and your plan, you know, like instead of waiting for someone to make a decision for you. Like, it's just basic as far as I'm concerned, but it seems to be a long way away from a lot of people's minds.
Have you seen the booklets we produced that we took around all the time?
Yeah.
That was just a consent, it was just. But yeah, we've got to keep working on it. So. But this is good. I'm excited by this, and Cons is really good. We've got a real big team going there, and Asher and Michael, and yeah, new technology every day. Something new is happening, which is.
And like we still have this is a big project, the evacuation route lines and safe zone signs. We're working on overcoming that obstacle, but this has to go in, these signs, because we can do it. It's not going to cost anything. I'm doing it myself with reserves, so they can go real quick. It's just the road signs, we have to follow the rules. So you've just got to, it's coming, it will follow on, and the same route around the peninsula as these rules go.
It's good, because I had a few questions and you just answered one of them, which was the evacuation safe route sign, something along those lines that is dotted every 100, 150, 200 metres along a specific route out, because you look at these plans and I really like these signs, but you know, they sound great, and that QR code sounds even better for a lot of people. But what we'll find is that these safe zones are generally on private property. So we need to have both the route onto the safe zone, but also the area delineated or defined within that private property, because what we can't afford to do, particularly if we go through practice exercises, is to send people up these safe zone routes into private property in a relatively uncontrolled way. So a lot of work still to do, but they're just sort of thoughts that I'm throwing in here that we need to seriously consider. And I'm sure we are working with those private property owners to help us to get those people into defined zones within private property or within forestry land or whatever it is that we're sending people into, and how we then get them out, and we don't expect them to go back in until there's another tsunami or practice. It's a curly issue, but it's a very important issue. So I think those were the two sort of key. I would like to see some safe routes delineated on this plan. So if I was stood at the beach, I would be able to say, oh, that's the track that I need to run up. And it would be an obvious thing. We need to make it as obvious as we possibly can, rather than just run for higher ground. Because if people just run to higher ground and it's late at night, they'll run into a fence and do more damage to themselves than the tsunami possibly may do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just like I remember Stephen Sharp or something, you know, at the Mount, And they, you know, young Buffeties who they said, right, there's a tsunami now, go. One girl forgot her shoes, another one, and they all drowned. And they were fit young 19, 20-year-olds in a flat, and the guy said, right, it's happening now, go. And it was chaos, you know, and they too far to run in the time, they couldn't do it.
And of course, in rural environments like this, quite often there can be a wall or a fence that you can hop over and carry on running uphill, not realising there's a 10-foot drop on the other side of that fence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so easy in the rural zone for that to happen.
Parker, who lives on a very high hill, and Marsden Point evacuated to his side without him knowing that that was their plan. And they had over 250 people up at their house, including a kindy and stuff, for 6 hours on the last one.
Yeah.
So
the key to this is the practice. Yeah, and I'm sure it's all been built in, but again, I just wanted to highlight that the practice is where we're really going to hone our skills in terms of whether we're doing it. I know we're doing the right thing, but it's whether we're doing a great thing, and making sure that we do practice ourselves just to check that our sanity's in the right space before we throw schools into practicing or other people, you know what I mean? So I think it's great. It's going in the right direction from my perspective.
We'll get there.
You,
A lot of moving parts to it.
there is,
Yeah.
yes, there is, but
Not much to consider.
there is absolutely, understand it, totally agree. But again, the devil is always in that detail.
yes,
And the minute we start putting signs on the beaches, we have to have that detail nailed, or else we will get picked off.
What's good is we started early, we started this in February, even earlier than late last year, so it's, we're going to hit it ground running.
I'd like to mention that every entrance is going to have a UI here mark, so you'll know where you are. That's why we wanted something really cool and interactive, because there's no point in standing at a sign and I am here and you're not local and you don't really know where to go.
yep,
Yes, so the route signs are important, but there's tricks around installing these signs, and you've got to be really careful from a council perspective when you get to tell someone that you've got to turn here or go straight.
I know.
Because there could be dangers this way, and there could be, you have to be very strategic in where you place the signs, because you can't make a decision for the people. They have to use their own initiative and judge what is happening around them on the day, because every emergency is different. But yeah, there's lots of things I want to do with those maps, but I think something interactive is going to be the best option, because the maps are going to become too busy. I want to add distance to location as well, and there's ways to do that, but it becomes really difficult because we physically have to walk through a trench or jump over a fence or climb a cliff. On a map, it's easy to show 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, but you might not be able to take that route. You have to take a 40-minute route. So it's, yeah, I'm so glad you picked up on that, because it is vital that we get it right. Right, I think I'm done.
Thank you, Pam. Anything you want to say about that, Terry?
No, there was plenty of discussion, so I was listening intently.
Do you live on top of a hill?
Yeah, he's an evacuation zone.
Oh, right, so we all come to your house and we're just on with that. Excellent, thank you.
Tea and
We had
bar.
50 last time and the kettle was on all the time.
Excellent. Right,
Right, EOC staffing and training update. So for a small scale event like we've been running, the Emergency Operating Centre has been activated to monitoring since Friday last week, and we've been carried until Sunday this week. So that's just Pam, Gary and I pretty much monitoring constantly.
yes,
If the event starts growing a little bit, we might pull in 1 or 2 of our training council staff, and we rely on customer services for delivering any key messages to people ringing in, and communications for delivering key messages going out. So it's a smallish team. should an event escalate and we have something, worst case scenario is like that 5th of January storm 2018.
Yes.
This council chamber's taken over and we set up here, and it's more like between 20 and 40 staff to run the event. And all we're doing is building a picture for our community and our emergency services and working with emergency services to deliver on a plan. So the staff, we used to have a scattergun approach where if staff were interested, we'd train them, but then come an event, they might have other priorities within council or not be available. And so we've been working on a more strategic approach where we've now got 24 identified staff that Gretchen and HR has then taken to the leadership team, and they've approved that they will be released for, really crucially, training and activation. So rather than have a scattergun approach, we've got a strategic approach. The advantage of this is that we've now got three positions that are reasonably senior that will train up. That will mean that the emergency operating centre can run without us in it, because at the moment it's really dependent on a little bit of direction. So the next stage is the training. This is the long-term plan performance measure, which is that we run an annual exercise as a measure of how well we're delivering on our training.
Yes.
So the baseline assessment is going to be completed in 4th of November this year. We're participating, we will set up council chambers as a emergency operating centre, and that will be assessed against a set of strategic KPIs, but the whole of Waikato councils are doing it. So we're all participating on the same day. Between now and 4th of November, pretty much fortnightly, Pam and or I are working with that staff of 24 and delivering half hour or 1 hour, just really targeted trainings. Since I know what the KPIs are, they're targeted to make sure we meet them. But the end result will be a team that all or part of can be set up quite short notice, because we've got buy-in already from the council managers, which has sometimes been a barrier in the past, because we're targeting people that in their BAU need to be in that role in an event. So I think we're really progressing. So we're going to have one really strong team, which if it's a long or ongoing event, you can pull in other council staff easy enough if you've got good leadership. So that's the goal. So it's been really productive, and I feel really positive about this.
Gretchen's been, we've been doing it on our own for so long, like we've been managing the HR side of it, and late last year, Gretchen said, I think we need to do this. And I sort of pushed back and said, well, hang on, this is the other two.
Did you realise working together with
she said she did right. She said, let's just work on it. And she's been great, and she's unblocked a few blockages as well, which has been really, really helpful.
Because I think that's really important. Like, one of the things that you were talking about in audit and risk yesterday was, our responsibility to staff for wellness in its wholeness sense, and you guys being exhausted isn't useful for anybody yourselves. So we have to have systems that means backup can happen. So that's cool.
Just the final point on that 4th of November exercise, if the committee's interested, what we can do is arrange a half hour, an hour slot where you would come in and be briefed by the team in here, which gives
that would be great.
Comms turn a role, but it's the same thing in a real event, where it's better to work through and be invited in and be have a proper briefing and a tour rather than turn up, because it depends on where we are at the stage of the cycle.
Exactly.
We're pulling key people out of crucial planning decisions sometimes. So training our elected members as well would be great. So we would send that invite out to that at some point once we're a bit further down in the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, for Madam Chair, is the work program. So this is the last work program for the year. As we've explained, it's pretty much, there's no leaves on the items with the only thing that's red, so they've now gone to orange because we're managing it. Everything else is green.
we've completed or we're underway with our projects, we're within budget. So the next work program will be a little bit tidier than this in terms of, we'll have a discussion as to how much financial information we put out there, because it's a public document. We just have a discussion with others as to what it looks like. So we meet again in August, I think. June, July, or August, I think is our next meeting.
So by then we'll have a.
Well, it's ready work program for you. So we're still working on it, but it'll be presented in your way. So, any questions on the work program?
Any questions or comments on the action plan from now till end of June?
Yeah, I got one. Just interested about the power code deal that fell over. What was the story there?
So what happened when, in 2018, Terry, when we had the Thames Coast Road and the Thames Coast Road storm, Powerco came along and said that we will put a whole lot of generators around communities. And they had staff personnel changes. It's been a real dog to work with them. They are just, fog and smoking mirrors, they're just great. But what happened is when they went down the path of the Whangamata episode with putting more juice into particular communities like Whangamata, they decided to roll that out around the Coromandel Peninsula. So what they're doing is they're replicating on a much smaller scale peak period security around the rest of the Coromandel. So they've said to us, look, that will supersede what we were going to do with you in 2018. We're now doing this. So yeah, the project's being superseded.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments, Terry?
No, I think it's all good. Thank you.
Anything, Robin?
Nice to see so much green in that document.
So we can move to receive the district manager's report. And so that's Robin and Terry, if you didn't already know it. Thank you. And then we're also receiving the district manager's report, and that's me and Robin. So everybody happy? Cool. Anybody got anything else they want to add?
General business?
No general business. I'm going to the regional meeting on Monday. I don't think there's anything there that's going to be too contentious. So I just like to acknowledge the team's hard work, as I do each time, but I really want to acknowledge that you people do full-time jobs, and then when the emergencies come, you keep going and go. Weekends aren't yours. So I just want to acknowledge that commitment and have a safe day, and look forward to that recovery plan, and that feeding through. And I think on reflection of myself, I need to get better at feeding back at minute time what's happening in this committee to the whole council, so that we get a better, everyone, even if they don't want to hear me, better understanding of what's going on, because I think that's something that I could do better. So I will work on that.
Work with you on that, if you know.
Yeah, because I just think that the more people know, well, then better conversations can be had. So yes, we'll think about how I can present the minutes in a fuller way. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well done.
Thanks, governors.
Oh,
I'm happy to, don't have a minute.
We have-
happy to move that as yours.
right. So that's my members' report. Thank you. You're so good at the process. So I'll move it right. Secondly, excellent. Thank you. Right. Have a good day, Mr. Terry. Thank you for coming on board.
Sorry I couldn't be there today. I'm just going to get my new tooth, so I might have a different smile next time I see you. All good.
Yeah.
Thank you for the meeting.
Yeah, thank you.